I am joined today by Asanoha. His artwork explores the principles of individual liberty, emphasizing the separation of money and state, the sanctity of private property, the preservation of constitutional rights. His artwork can be found at sovereignremnant.com. He's also the founder of Bitcoin Art Magazine. Busy with that lately. You've been featured at premier Bitcoin events such as BitBlockBoom, Unconfiscatable, the Bitcoin Conference, Pacific Bitcoin, Plan B Lugano, the Bitcoin FilmFest, other notable gatherings. You've had work featured in publications such as Citadel 21, Bitcoin Magazine, Stackchain Magazine, and Bitcoin News. The Bitcoin Art Magazine can be found at bitcoinartmagazine.com. It looks beautiful. I don't have a copy yet. My buddy, I think, is just about to get his. He ordered his a while ago early, and they're just starting to go out now. It's the world's first Bitcoin art magazine, promotes Bitcoin adoption through art and culture. So get your copy of Bitcoin Art Magazine today. It's not just a magazine, it's a gallery in your hands. Asanoha, you have been working your tail off. So how are you doing with all this?
Overall, first of all, thank you for having me up here today, man. And
You're welcome.
thank you guys. MicroSeed is one of our sponsors.
That's right.
One of the official sponsors for Bitcoin Art Magazine, and is one of the most innovative and ingenuitive seed storage solutions that I have found. And I highly recommend MicroSeed. So if you don't know about MicroSeed, go and check out MicroSeed. I'm guessing listening to this, at least from your channels, already know about MicroSeed. But thank you guys very much for sponsoring us. And we're very honored to have your support. And we literally couldn't have done any of this without you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And overall, things are going good. It's been pretty crazy. I decided to do 4 different editions of the magazine and the book. And so there's 2 variants of the magazine. There's a standard issue magazine that's limited to 1,720 copies. We were going to just keep it open numbered, but we decided to cap it at our first print quantity, which was 1,720 copies. So
and don't mind me if I throw stuff on stage here, because when it comes to artwork, there's just a lot to show off. So
there's a lot of details behind all of it. So we've got our standard issue magazine that is also limited. It's not individual. The magazines are not individually numbered, but the print quantity is limited. So get one while you can. And I'm not saying that they're a good financial investment. You should not buy anything other than Bitcoin as a financial investment. But these will probably be worth something someday, especially since they're the first issue that we are doing of this somewhat seminal publication. And
highly collectible, I would imagine, down the road.
Yes, sir. So that's the goal anyways. We have a gold foil cover version. It's the same as the standard issue, except it's got gold foil on the cover, and those are signed and numbered, and those are limited to 210 copies of each. So that's, if you're an avid collector, grab yourself one of those. They come with a complimentary standard issue as well, so you can keep your gold foil copy real nice and minty, send it off to grading, and you can read the standard issue. We're also doing 2 hardcover books. So we have a limited edition of 121 hardcover books. Those also come with a complimentary standard issue. And then we have our Patrons Edition hardcover book. That is, the interior is the same as the LE 121 hardcovers, but the exterior is going to have some extra embellishments, finishes. It'll be, spruced up a little bit, and it will come with some little extra goodies. One very exciting item is a signed and numbered fine art archival giclée of the cover of the magazine, signed by Fractal himself.
Nice.
Fractal Encrypt is the cover artist, for anybody who doesn't know, and that is his full node sculpture work, or one of his full node sculptures out of his full node series of works. So there's some nice little things that come with it. With the gold foil magazine, you get a limited edition of 210 serigraph print of my artwork, and you get, this is the artwork for the print that goes with the hardcover book, and then there's a variation of the mandala that goes with the patrons edition. We are sold out of the patrons editions currently, so a huge shout out to all of our patrons and our biggest supporters for scooping those up. So yeah, it's been good. It's been crazy. The magazines are done. They are shipping. If you order a magazine, I am shipping it as fast as I can within a couple days or a week max. And currently we're still working on the books. So anybody who's listening to this and who ordered a book, we've sent out your complimentary magazine copies. So you have something to hold. I promise you, we're not rugging you. And we have a bit of, it's been more difficult than I thought printing 4 different editions at once. So that's kind of the gist of what we're doing here in a nutshell of the products we're offering. We have over 36 artists featured in the magazine and the book, and there are over 70 full art pages. So it's quite a beautiful collection of Bitcoin art.
Yes, this picture here looks like what's about behind you, although they've been going out as they come in batch after batch, right? Just, I can imagine how that packing and shipping and all that work goes.
Yep, and we're doing it all ourselves, so doing it right here. You might be able to notice the table behind me is the table in that photograph. And so we have sent out all of our pre-orders. We had 3 very, very nice batches of pre-orders. As you can see there, quite a lot. That was just batch number 3. We had 2 more similar sized batches go out before that. And so we're just about caught up now. We've got some giveaway winners that we had. And then I'm just catching up on little orders kind of coming in right now. So it's been good. It's been fun. It's been crazy. Magazine, he said, it definitely turned out to be far more difficult than I thought it would.
You don't do this because it was easy, but because it looked like it was easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I can only imagine now, because this is the first of its kind, the first edition of it. So in a lot of ways, you had to reach out kind of freshly to curate all the artists you could get, vet them to an extent, figure out who could do it, just the organization, getting it together, stuff you hadn't done before that was new. A lot of this is happening for the first time. So hopefully as a quarterly, it's going to be coming out quarterly as I understand it. And so hopefully some of this stuff will come around a little easier.
Yeah, the intention is that it's a quarterly release. In this moment, it's still to be seen what level of demand there is for this out there. And so in a worst case scenario, maybe it's a biannual, or it's 2 or 3 a year, and it's not exactly on that quarterly timeline. I'm really gunning for that though. And that is the goal, is to do it 4 times a year. So there's a lot of really great content out there. There's a lot of beautiful artwork being created by creatives and artists all over the world. So we'll just kind of have to see how it goes here on exactly is it going to be like we currently took down the subscription option as there's some issues with tariffs, and we're trying to figure out logistical stuff.
I hear you there.
Testament to figuring out all the little bits and pieces are it's overwhelming when the amount of small back end details to make this happen turned out to be, yes, as most things I think usually do, but far more difficult than initially assumed. So
yeah. Well, you're making, people have commented like, hey, this could be online. People could look at it online. The thing about it, when it comes to art, yeah, you could put it online, but you're trying to manage the quality, the rights of the artist. You don't want people just copying and pasting or stealing or whatnot. And the intent of it is that this is something tangible. As art, you want to be holding it in your hand and enjoying it, smelling it, all the tangible experience about an art gallery in your hands is not browsing online. You can get enough of that if you want it. So there's something to be said about making it physical. And then if you want to do that with quality, I don't even know what it goes into making like an art gallery, coffee table style quality book of various, hardcover, gold foil. All of that takes a quality printer and quality effort and attention to detail. I mean, to make a physical product, it's a lot of work.
It is, and there's a lot of details like to printing that I'm a sort of a, I don't know if autodidact is kind of the word, but like self-taught kind of individual. Yeah. So like I never gone to any kind of like art school or any graphic design school. So I'm a self-taught graphic designer. Shout out Bitcoin Trading Cards, but I do all of their final card composition and sort of head of graphic design in some of the operations over there. And I learned how to use InDesign during the build of this magazine. And it's as far as though all like the details and reaching out to people, the coordination of everything, like I've been making Bitcoin art for a few years now, and I think thankfully I've done a good enough job that a lot of the artists I have a good relationship with. So it wasn't too difficult getting the content, but I mean, it's now just the logistics of the printing and the packaging and the shipping and all the little pieces add up, So, but it's going really good. We're doing great, and that was Bitcoin Trading Cards up on the screen there. Super cool project. You should definitely check them out. Shout out Bitcoin Trading Cards. Yeah, no, it's good. We're stoked. We're really grateful. Getting sponsors like MicroSeed was massively helpful and really, really exciting. When
we first heard that this was coming out and that, one of a kind a new era in Bitcoin art and outreach. And so when MicroSeed, my co-founder, Daniel White, was early into it, like just loves Bitcoin art, loves art generally, but we're like, we need to sponsor this. Do you think that's cool? And I'm like, yeah. So anyway, MicroSeed being our little self-custody device we made, we were happy to just early when we could to sponsor it and say, hey, let's help this get this off the ground, because Bitcoin art is where it's at. When I go to a Bitcoin conference or other Bitcoin events, I love going when I have time. When there's a gallery in the, to the side, and I can spend hours there, wandering and perusing and checking stuff out, stuff for sale. So many different varieties of art. I've always thought, and you've said this, but basically there is an early new frontier, kind of a niche in the art world in Bitcoin, that artists of all kinds, it's not just putting a B stamp on stuff, but making art that's based in Bitcoin Maxi. There is a lot of high quality Bitcoin art out there that I would never have necessarily thought of.
There really is. And it's really interesting, and it's going to be really interesting to see what it all turns into someday. Like, is it, I think you kind of mentioned slapping a B on stuff. And I think the trajectory is where there's going to be a convection of sorts where, Bitcoin art doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily a direct relation to Bitcoin, but it's maybe Bitcoin adjacent themes and subject matters, and, themes of sovereignty and themes of liberty and themes of freedom and so forth. But it's, all kind of pushing towards, art that's maybe built with a little bit more of a low time preference in mind. And I think ultimately just speaking to true artwork, art that's created from passion and, desire to create something beautiful and something that you're really inspired by. And a lot of the art that we see in the world is, it's fiat based artwork that's created with a high time preference, sort of,
Sure. And, quality art does take time, and how you make something that's popular, and you have to make a decision as an artist of like, should I just make a whole bunch of prints? And I don't want to say sell out, but an artist has got to eat, and an artist should earn quality money for quality work. So there's a financial aspect to it, but at the same time, it's balancing quality with going down, well, I'm just going to crank out a bunch of this same stuff because I guess it can sell. Everything I've seen has been high quality, so I feel really good about the movement currently. It feels like a lot of great artists with the right incentives.
Yeah, I think that there's Bitcoin gives you your time back in a lot of ways. And I think that there's a lot of beautiful art to be made. That's, if you look at, that's kind of pulling more from Renaissance artwork or like pre-fiat architecture and, artwork that was created when the world or societies were on a sound money standard, namely gold. But you see a lot of art that was created that was very low time preference. And I think that, there's a renaissance for that in the future for humanity at some point. And that's not to say that people don't create absolutely stunning and phenomenally amazing works today. But I mean, the art world in general, the modern art world is, it's very, anybody who knows anything about it, it's very fiat infested, as most as most areas of life are now fiat, kind of driven or
taping a banana to the wall. It may be that I don't have a depth of knowledge to discern maybe modern art. I just like art is, you know what you like when you see it. You may not be able to articulate it, but you like what you like. Sometimes I think art is thrown out there to be able to have people buy it and put money somewhere or launder money. I don't know. There's all kinds of goofy shit that goes on in the art world too. Some of that modern stuff, I'm like, I mean, maybe some people like that. I want to point out one that I really like of yours that I've seen before. I think I saw this at one of the conferences, and it definitely bleeds the essence of fiat money and time preference stuff. The United States of inflation, in debt we trust. This is one of my favorites of yours. It's a slight departure in style, I might say.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting because I did it on a piece of cardboard, like a throwaway piece of cardboard with used dollar bills. And then I drew the M2 money supply graph on there. And it's, it's how would I say, like maybe a little bit quicker made, but I mean, the idea behind it and the intention to invoke, an emotion of some sort. I like to think it makes you feel something. And so, and this is something to be said that like not all art needs to take hundreds and thousands of hours to create if it's a good idea. And that's like something with like the Duchampian work of like a banana taped to a wall is, you're kind of, there's tongue in cheek, you're making fun of something. There's
some of that can be like a screw you to, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, but I mean, there's a lot of art that's made, I think, without, it's like a fabricated intention, right? So the story that it speaks to is just pulled from the nethers, ethers, whatever. It's just, kind of, you can, and that's what they teach in fine art school is like, you can apply a story of an artistic, story to like anything, to a freaking paint splatter on the wall.
Sure.
And so, I mean, for me, that's a big question of like, what is the meaning behind the artwork that's being created? And then like, what is the relevance and the tether of like the actual art to the story that it's telling? And like, is there something that is it just imaginary, made up, or is there genuinely something in the artwork that speaks to the story that it's telling? And vice versa. And of course, there's a lot of art that's just for aesthetic value and beautiful. And yeah, maybe some people like paint splatters on a wall and that's their kind of vibe or aesthetic, so.
Yeah, I don't judge it harshly. Who am I to know what good art is, but these blocks that you've created, and you like gold, black and gold, the gold foil and the gold look. You can definitely get into that in terms of what gold represents and the quality it shines, it's attractive. You've made some beautiful, I guess you might say historic blocks, if you will, recreating blocks in the blockchain that represented points in time. And I think, was it Mempool got one of these or something like that?
They did. Mempool was kind enough to commission a block from me that I think was commemorating their transaction accelerator service that they offer. So that's pretty cool. And that, I believe, is hanging in their office in Tokyo, as far as I know.
Awesome.
I have done a few cool ones, and it's interesting because that one that was just on the screen there was just for a total Twitter anon. I mean, one of those just, you know, Twitter accounts that's got 50 followers and just is, you know, I mean, must be a Bitcoin OG to some degree. They've been around. And was like, hey, I want you to make this. Can you make this block? I want to, and it was actually a gift. But it's just interesting from, you know, Twitter is a fun, wild place. The internet's a wild place. But yeah, from a total anon commissioning a block with a cool story behind it, you can read about it on my website, to the mempool offices themselves commissioning a block. So I've done a handful of those. Those are really cool. And then yeah, it's been fun. It's interesting. I really like geometric artwork, so that's like where my passion for artwork started. And
yeah,
for me, that's representative of an abstract aesthetic that I like, you know. But also, there's a lot of hidden meaning inside of geometric patterns and, you know, sacred geometry, and something along the lines of a, you know, a humanly attempt to conceptualize a higher power and
yeah, mathematics, sacred geometry. I had to look up the name Asanoha. Felt like, okay, this means something, but like a traditional Japanese pattern, like a lucky omen, strength, growth, good health. The Asanoha is a type of pattern, if I understand it.
it is.
Like
It's a Japanese. The Asanoha pattern is a Japanese pattern. It's a triangular tessellation, and this artwork on the screen right now is actually a variation of an Asanoha pattern. But it means hemp leaf in Japanese, and I used to work in the hemp industry, and so it seemed like I've have an absolute fascination with the Asanoha pattern, so it seemed like a fitting nomiker or kind of artist handle. And then the gold part, and the gold in a lot of the artwork that I've done and that I do is, I mean, for one, I think that black and gold is a cool aesthetic and it looks cool. And on the other hand, as far as any relation to Bitcoin, you know, gold was the, you know, main world's biggest true form of sound money for thousands of years. And now that we have Bitcoin, I think gold can take its place, especially seeing as how co-opted it's been, take its place in art and you know, utilitarian use cases and what have you. But it's a really beautiful color and material. It's kind of in between colors because it's really just like a yellow and an orange sort of, you know, you can't get gold unless you have like a metallic reflective surface of some kind. And it's an element that, you know, can't be, I mean, compared to Bitcoin, it can be easily counterfeited, but you can't, there's only one, you know, on a molecular level form of gold. And so, you know, you can kind of, there's a bunch to say about that, but I mean, I'll keep it short. Basically, though, it's it's a warning call to not let what happened to gold happen to Bitcoin. And we're seeing that today with these treasury companies and with the ETFs. You know, they're doing everything they can to co-opt Bitcoin and completely paperify it to the point that they can fully control it and control the price action around it. So it's important to self-custody your Bitcoin, and it's important to understand what non-KYC Bitcoin is. And it's important to be careful about supporting Bitcoin treasury companies, not to mention you'll probably get totally rugged, like a bunch of the big ones currently have been mass forced onto the Bitcoin community by previously semi-trusted individuals. But also simply because you don't, you know, not your keys, not your coins, and you don't own the Bitcoin that's in an ETF or a treasury company. So it's the same as buying gold stocks or paper gold through a brokerage exchange. Like if you don't own the gold, you have an IOU, and it's the same for Bitcoin. And if they get the whole world on IOUs to Bitcoin, it's not going to necessarily do, it's definitely not going to do all of the things that we want it to do. It'll still do some of them, I believe, but you know, slope, and we're seeing it before our very eyes, you know. So let's not.
Yeah, we want Bitcoin to be decentralized and secure. I always encourage people, like, take self custody, run a node, know what it is that you have. I mean, many people. I mean, years ago, you could say, "Oh, I remember that time when I got some and it went up, and then I sold it," or and you didn't understand what it was at first. It's a path you take, and when you get there, you're like, "Oh, this means so much more." And then as an artist, you can reflect that deep meaning deeply into your art. Gold is rich, recognizable, lustrous. It has that visual like value to it, and yet Bitcoin is even better than that. And yeah, Bitcoin, like in, what was it, 6102 attack back in 33 or whatever it was, and 1971 depegging from the gold standard, and we don't want, yeah, like you said, we don't want Bitcoin to go down the path that gold went, or that people feel like, oh, I have Bitcoin, but it was through that broker or on that exchange, or when I if I want to get it back out or take self custody, they're only letting me withdraw like $1,000 a week now, or who knows what.
Or it's
The
cash
walled
in, cash out, and they're only letting you sell it on their exchange or through their platform for cash on the way out, which I'm pretty sure is all the ETFs. Like, you can't, when you buy exposure to Bitcoin on there, that is all you are buying, is exposure. And when you want to sell it, you're selling it for fiat, so you're still inside of their gilded cage. And I mean, if you study the history of gold, it's pretty obvious like what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin has to offer, and what we don't want to happen to Bitcoin, because it all happened to gold, like you said, not that long ago, from 1971 to, I believe, 1933, 34, 35, EO 6102. I mean, and there's very high or possible chance that they try and do a 6102 on Bitcoin as well. So, yeah, it's interesting. But I've been trying to do a little less black and gold lately. So that's kind of where that blood money piece came from, and
changing your style a bit. And just to go over some other stuff you've done, you've collaborated with Crypto Cloaks, designed some actual 3D type stuff. Looks like stuff on wood.
Yeah, that's shout out to Crypto Cloaks, Rick and those guys in Mopar, great guys. They that's actually their Bitcoin grenade design, which is quite popular. So they 3D print a little Bitcoin grenade, and then I did my own kind of hand-drawn rendition of it, and then turned that into a serigraph print. And then BTC Pins actually made that little wooden box and made some pins that go with it. So it's like a little collector set of Bitcoin grenade items, a print, a pin, 3D printed grenade, and it goes in a little box. So that was pretty fun. And
printed circuit board.
Yeah.
A wine bottle in a box there, some functional art as a gift. I love the Guy Satoshi, the Daiji, iconic view. I feel like I may have seen, I don't know if any of your artwork is in Nashville at the Bitcoin Citadel there. I feel like I've seen it, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe, do you have any artwork in Nashville? Maybe.
Yeah, there's some pieces at Bitcoin Park, as well as Bitcoin Art Museum over at the hey, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Headphones just died. Let me try. And
what I'll do here as well is that you also connected with the Bitcoin trading cards. I want to ask you about what art you made for the Bitcoin trading cards, but you are the art director at BTC Trading Cards here. Let me bring them back up. Where'd they go? Here they are. So these hugely popular. Respect to the artists, all the different styles. They get to pick and choose. iconic individuals that have been part of the space, part of the movement, OGs and cypherpunks. And these are highly collectible. I've seen them here and there and everywhere. There's rare cards. There's Max Kaiser. Where'd that go? Yes, Hal Finney, Max Kaiser. You got the cypherpunks.
Yeah, so this is actually Aladdin's mind child. He's the mastermind behind the whole thing, and I help him with the final card composition and graphic design, and then when we do Bitcoin specific artists, I help with the liaison and coordination for that. But this project's absolutely blown up. It's really cool. There's no NFTs involved. This is just physical trading cards, and the goal with Bitcoin trading cards are base trading cards. We've rebranded to base trading cards now. Bitcoin trading cards is a product made by based trading cards. And the whole goal is to bring scarcity back to the hobby. So in the collectible industry, you've got a lot of parallels to fiat money. And that's a lot of the big trading card companies. They print a more or less unlimited amount of trading cards. And a lot of them, very few of them, if any, tell you what your odds are for how rare of a card you can find in one of their packs. So there's just kind of a lot of unknowns, and they more or less print like the Federal Reserve. They print trading cards like the Federal Reserve prints money, and they just keep printing. And I'm not going to get too deep into it or bash it too hard, but it's pretty bad. And there's actually been if you look up something called the junk wax era, there's some really interesting parallels. But base trading cards is basically, commemorating Bitcoin education, a lot of amazing people in Bitcoin artwork, and, creating a product that is just a nice way to, potentially introduce your kids or some normies, some friends who like collectibles to Bitcoin. And they're working on, trying to bring back scarcity. So all the odds rates, the exact amount of cards that are printed, the exact amount of, let's say how many one of ones are in a set, and are they truly one of ones, or are they kind of pseudo one of ones where maybe the foils changed on them?
Gotcha.
And just their base trading cards. It's just about having scarcity or transparency of the scarcity in a collectible product, and that you would think that would be an industry standard, but it's crazy. It's just not. So
I guess you can do whatever the hell you want if you print your own stuff. And I just had to look it up. The junk wax era, it was in baseball cards, at least from 1986 to 1994, period of massive overproduction by companies like Topps, Upper Deck, etc., flooding the market with so many cards that most ended up virtually worthless today, despite collector hopes for future value. I think I lived through that as a kid. It was like everybody had all these cards, and I as a kid I thought these must be something special, and none of them were.
Yeah, so they're doing the same thing right now as that with a lot of the big trading card companies that you might hear about on the news or see online or be even into yourself. And there's nothing wrong with any trading cards out there. First and foremost, it's for fun, it's a hobby, and it's a collecting stuff's a hobby, and but a lot of people are doing it for a potential future speculative value. And even if that's not their main focus, is it ethical to be selling something labeled as a collectible? Or even if you're not calling it a collectible yourself, the in the public eye out there, it is a collectible item, but the scarcity is so how do I say, like, low on it. There's like so little scarcity to it that is it even a collectible really? So I mean, you're seeing that right now, and you can go and read about it. So base trading cards is trying to bring awareness to that and trying to create a cool, fun, collectible, educational product in a way that maintains true scarcity and transparency with what it is that you're actually buying.
That's cool. I don't play Magic. I know people who are into like Magic the Gathering. I saw an interesting documentary about Magic the Gathering when they first started. and we're doing like a lot of the game theory and math on how this would even work as a game, but there's layers to that element of, you know, value as a game, scarcity of certain resources or power, and then also, you know, scarcity of cards. I think they went through, and then like as collectibles, scarcity of things there, respect to the artists. They went through an era where it was like one of their early-ish editions, the third or fourth one, I don't know, but they were just like, they'd been trying to keep up with demand for a while, and they kind of caught up with demand and were just like printing all they could. And then they had an edition that was just kind of junk because it was like, oh, we got more of that, you know, nobody wants that anymore. So there's an art itself to the supply and demand to keep it valuable in a way as a thing that was made, even as it is art itself anyway. But there's value in that. That it's, if you had, say you had the most beautiful artwork in the world, but you just made a million prints and said anyone can have one, it kind of loses its like, well, anyone can have one. Like, it's still cool, but it's also not the same. There's something to be said about scarcity.
There really is. There really is. And it's really interesting when you study Bitcoin and gold and fiat and what makes, you know, what is a good form of money and what does scarcity mean and what does value mean? And of course, ultimately, you know, it's subjective, but there are some tangible real world things that it derives value, that scarcity or value is derived from, such as scarcity, like if you print a million of the same thing versus 10 of the same thing, you know?
Yeah. One thing that Magic did, I think they gave respect, or I think they allowed the artists to have their name in the art. Like, you could tell who made the artwork. And I think they gave the artists licensure or rights to the art, so that later you contributed to the card, sure, but then that art that you made, yeah, the company used it in a card or wherever, but you still owned it and you could still go and resell it yourself as an artist. That was interesting to me. I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm gonna have to look that up. On all of base trading cards, we do credit the artists, and it depends on if the artwork, as far as who owns the IP, whether they were was commissioned artworks by base trading cards, or if it was just artwork that was featured in the cards. So sort of a hybrid there of what's going on with that. But that's really interesting regarding Magic. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I guess because it was a new style of a game itself, but the early art director folks they hired were like, hey, you know, we don't just want to pay the artists, like, I think it was $50 a card at the time. They need to be able to own their art still, or in the future, like that art is theirs. But anyway, there was respect to art there.
Yeah. Magic Gatherings, on, you know, it's a phenomenal project, and you know, it's Magic the Gathering is absolutely amazing. They, you know, my only request would be if they gave a little more transparency on how much of what they're printing, you know. So
what is the scarcity of what? Yep.
Yeah.
Is it a black box of just you maybe can figure it out or not?
Yeah. How many exactly of this set were printed, you know? So, and it's interesting, right, if you go into the traditional trading card hobby and start asking questions like that, people, they don't know. The answer is, actually, I don't know how many of, you know, whatever was printed, because I don't think that there's any numbers out there from the company of how many they did print, you know. So,
and you connected with the Bitcoin trading cards, like, I'm guessing it was like around 2023. You maybe first met them at Pacific Bitcoin a few years ago.
Yeah, I met Aladdin when he launched at Pacific Bitcoin back in 22, and then we kind of just became friends thereafter. I'd be working on my Bitcoin art, and he was working on the trading cards, and we hit it off. And then there was in 23 there was a misprint, and some of his graphic designers basically made an error, and so a print of cards got botched. And I was like, well, let me see what happened, and let me see if I can help you. I know my way around you know, Illustrator a bit, and so I kind of peeled into what had happened and helped him figure it out, and then kind of got myself a job out of helping him repair that batch of cards. So, and then been helping out ever since. So yeah,
it's a jack of all trades, because you've been doing artworks for years now, at least 6 years. You might have been inspired by, was it Burning Man, or should I mention that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, it's interesting. It's amazing how much we change as humans as the years go on by. But
yeah,
I was very inspired by visionary artwork. So shout out to the likes of gentlemen and phenomenal, truly legendary artists such as Mir One, who is featured in the Genesis edition of Bitcoin Art Magazine. So that's been pretty cool, sort of one of those little full circle kind of things. But visionary artists that you would see at Burning Man, that kind of, psychedelic artwork, stuff at music festivals, obviously, along the lines of Alex Gray and so forth. And
the sculpture work as well. I mean, when I think of Burning Man, I've not been to Burning Man, but like I've seen documentaries, pictures. I've had friends who've gone. Some of the things they describe, and then some of the things you've seen built in the somebody's tent, but it's insane. It's amazing. So
yeah, it is. Burning Man's really cool. I mean, it's absolutely hedonistic, debaucherous event that I, the older I get, the more I wonder about the importance of it within a healthy society. But as far as like the artwork and the creation and like just having a ripping good time, I mean, the stuff they build out there is absolutely next level. It's mind bending what they drag out there and build, and then they burn a lot of it, which is pretty crazy.
Burn the man at the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, multi-million-dollar structures, giant sculptures you can climb on and walk in and have multiple layers, levels, and rooms and everything. And it's this enormous thing. And then they burn it all down in a week. So it's kind of
letting go.
Yeah, letting go or something.
Letting go. Yeah.
Wasteful in some ways, but also, there's some good meanings in there as well. So.
Sure. Yeah, not like a Stoic or a Buddhist might say, not to hold too tightly to your things, But thinking of Burning Man, the icon of this comment that looks like might be Miss Byte, MS Byte something. She says, "I want to buy 4 copies. This is of Bitcoin Art Magazine with Sats. Is that possible?"
Yes, absolutely. Bitcoin is our preferred method of payment. You can order the magazine at bitcoinartmagazine.com, and you can pay with BTC Pay Server. Currently, my Lightning node's having a little bit of issues, so the pay with Lightning option is down, but you can pay on chain right now, and you actually save yourself a little bit of money because I charge a fiat card processing fee if you pay via credit card. So
you pay a fee if you pay with fiat.
You pay a fee if you pay with fiat. And I that's freaking awesome. That's so that's kind of synchronistic and funny that this person's got BlackRock City there in the profile photo.
I was just going to say, so when this comment popped up, I was glancing at it. We were talking about Burning Man. I'm like, you know what? That's like that grid tent layout.
Yes, it is. I will say Burning Man is the best party in the whole world. So, if you like to party, Burning Man is the place to go at least once in your life and just check it out. I think unfortunately it's changed a lot over the years. My headphones keep dying on me. Can you still hear me?
You sound good to me, as long as you can hear me. But
all right, if I sound good to you, that's good. I can hear you great.
Okay, good. You sound fine.
Yeah, no, Burning Man it's if you like the party, it's probably the best party in the world. But I think it's changed a lot over the years. I mean, obviously a lot's changed, but especially this last 8 years. But Burning Man, I think, used to be a lot more anarchist. It definitely had a lot more of an anarchist vibe to it, and was more of an anti-establishment sort of festivity. And then over the years, as it's gotten bigger, the commercialization always kind of creeps its way in. And then you've got, these plug and play camps of like wealthy people flying in and not really doing the like OG Burning Man experience, which was like,
they get to take showers.
Yeah. And so it's gotten, there's some like weird, I don't know. There's definitely some weirdness, and like, there's a lot of dark sides to partying in general, right? So you've got a lot of, it's a
lot of
giant
people.
sized party. I mean, you know, so come with it, you know, but
I should have gone in the late 90s when maybe I could have. There was a, and I was at a
that was
different,
the time to have gone for sure.
yeah.
That was when it was cutting edge still, you know, that was when it was an outlier, it was a subculture, it was a counterculture. And I don't think it's that anymore, you know. It's Bitcoin's the best show in town right now. So.
Bitcoin's the best way to burn the man that you can here, people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that dates me, but I remember a coworker and some friends were going to Burning Man, and that might have been like 99 or something. And I almost went, but I was like, oh, too busy, too responsible, too kind of, I don't know. I want to say naive and young, I guess. I was like, sounds like a little much for me at the time. I was young and I wasn't too experienced. In hindsight, it's like, man, I should have just gone to that. Because now, well, like years later, it was like, yeah, tickets are like thousands of dollars or $1,000 or something ridiculous. But anyway.
Yeah, along with everything, it's gotten more expensive. But I mean, back then, like I've heard stories of back in the day, they would like set up mannequin shooting galleries and be like high on acid on the backs of like motorbikes, like, you know, shooting at mannequins and just bringing, you know, explosives out there and literally just blowing shit up and you know, more of a like just, you know, rebel crazy Mad Max vibe. And, you know, whereas now it's more along the lines of other large, you know, electronic music festivals, which
electronic guitars shooting napalm. Now I want to speak to the for one thing, you are prolific to me. You've put in some serious proof of work, and not just prolific in the sense that you've made a lot of art. I'm saying like a variety of types of art, the business, the production cycle stuff, like autodidactically figuring out Illustrator. Oh, we need to figure this out. You figure it out, including tattoos, correct? You've done tattoo work, or do you still do tattoo work?
So currently I haven't been doing many tattoos, although I ought to be. I did do a 2-year apprenticeship with Dylan Forte, one of the world's most renowned and probably the world's most prominent sacred geometry tattoo artist. He was a real pioneer, has been a real pioneer in the geometric tattoo art style in and of itself. So you can, you know, look him up, Dylan Forte. He's quite well known. And so I apprenticed with him for 2 years. And so I've learned how to do tattoos. And then, you know, life happened, and short story, I ended up moving back over to the West Coast, and I started a Bitcoin art magazine. So I've done all kinds of stuff. I'm a sushi chef. I'm a trained sushi chef. I've worked in sushi bars, and I've also done private catering. And I've done solar design and installation, shipping container fabrication, ag plan implementation, like large and small irrigation, pretty much every kind of general construction. I can drive heavy machinery. I'm forklift certified. I'm not actually certified, but I know how to drive a forklift. And I'm forklift certified where it counts. I've done all kinds of stuff. I've done interior design, like housing remodels, and then also like custom startup like fabrication. Like a startup in LA wants like a fall wall and a custom neon sign and a mural painted. So I have a good friend that I worked with for a bit doing kind of odds and ends design related work, and then that kind of led into me doing more and more artwork.
Yeah, when people think of artists, they often think of that whatever media they're familiar with, but they're thinking of like just creativity or maybe some skill that way. But a lot of art, you have to know your medium, your media. It can often be construction, craftsmanship. It's not just painting on canvas. It can be a lot more than that. You have to know like how stuff works together, how is it going to last. It's more than like watercolors. It's a lot of stuff. One of the early guests I had on this podcast, Block Zero, he was working on a 3D Tesseract type cube and wanted to make Bitcoin art as well. And, you know, kind of newer in the space, but doing 3D printing, similarly self-taught about a lot of stuff, but new mediums like not just 3D printing, but like resins and how things interacted with each other and how it lasted and how strong it was, how brittle was it. Basically, what are the characteristics of the stuff? And you can't just throw it out there and make it and be like, yeah, it's 3D printed plastic. It's like you often have to know much more than that when it comes to what your art is made out of.
Absolutely. I wonder, do you know where this gentleman is as of now? You said his name was Block Zero.
Block Zero. You can find him on X. Maybe I can find his profile here quickly. Block_0. He is on X, and he was on this podcast, and he was describing what he was working on. And let me go to his. Here he is. Okay, I'll bring this up real quick. Oh, I gotta do this thing. Hold on, bear with me. While you wait, I found Forte art here. It looked like that's quite the tattoo. Dylan Forte in Texas. And I also have Block Zero here. Let me toss this up on screen. So he had tritium lights, tritium illuminated rods, I guess he'd gotten, and he was aligning them in a way where you could have like basically a Bitcoin block, and that it would glow. And his brand here is Block Zero. He likes Block Zero. And anyway, he's working on the Genesis Block Tesseract. So up and coming artist, you never know. Someone to say, hey, if you got some stuff, maybe take a picture of it. I know he's looking at building these.
Yeah, I just found him on Twitter and followed him back. I'm gonna have to check out what he's working on.
Yeah, this is a mock-up view on the type of thing he was working on. And now this is like a kind of a prototype idea concept. He's behind him, he had these massive resin printers and things that he was building with, and just says, I just have, I'll stop and think, and I'll just have more and more ideas, and I just have to write them down and get back to them later and pick and choose because I can't do all of it. So anyway, there is basically a wealth of up and coming and potential and future artists that love Bitcoin. So pretty cool.
Content to fill pages of a magazine.
Yeah. So as you have editions that come out down the road and down the future, I know as you go and you become, more and more known and perhaps a desirable place to be, to have someone's their portfolio appear, you'll be vetting artists. But it would seem like the first go around may have been hard to find who all you could do Genesis edition with. Down the road, I can see you vetting people and a lot of people wanting to be in the magazine.
I'm hoping that it does grow into something of notoriety within the space. I am, so far it's been good. And I actually intentionally, I kind of did an open call initially, like who wants to be in a Bitcoin art magazine? And so I've got some newcomers in the Genesis edition, and I didn't just reserve it for OGs or, extremely prominent artists. And part of that is, intentionally, I want this to be an ongoing project and not a complete anthology on this first issue of, the best in the space necessarily, or the most OG in the space, but it to be an ongoing story of the artists, both big and small, that are creating stuff inspired by or related to Bitcoin.
Yeah. Giving stage and prominence to up and comers and new folks, who's good. And then also there's, you've got your Fractal and Crips out there that it's like, what's he been doing lately? People want to know. So you can have a variety of interests there.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of, I think there's a kind of a rising tide lifts all ships. And bigger artists will, being in the magazine, help some of the smaller artists come up. And then in turn, the smaller artists kind of, in some ways, make the bigger artists seem even bigger. if that makes sense, you know?
Totally. Yeah. You put them together and it's like, yeah, exactly.
It's interesting, you know, similar to Bitcoin, the like incentives in the game theory of the magazine are phenomenal. I mean, I'm incentivized to put the magazine together and to market the magazine, and in turn, I market the artist's art there within.
Mm-hmm.
They're incentivized to create beautiful art and give it to me to put in the magazine. And so it's kind of like perfect, I think, you know, symbiotic cycle. And it's exciting that it doesn't exist in the space already. There's been a, you know, shout out to the publications that are there. Bitcoin Magazine has featured my art and a lot of other artists' art. And Bitcoin Magazine at the Bitcoin conference hosts the world's largest Bitcoin art gallery, physical art gallery.
Awesome.
You know, and they have, I believe Tommy's got quite the collection down in Nashville at the Bitcoin Art Museum of artworks, Bitcoin artworks in one place. Stackchain Magazine, shout out to them for featuring me and lots of other artists in their magazine, on the cover of their magazine. And Citadel 21, huge shout out to Citadel 21. If you don't have Citadel, well, Stackchain Magazine, go get your copies, and go get your copies of Citadel 21.
This is yours here, episode 6, it looks like.
That is mine there. I did the cover of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually a cipher key that can be used to encrypt a Bitcoin seed phrase on the cover of the magazine there. So
awesome.
yeah.
And you've hidden Bitcoin in a cipher before, cipher art. You could self-custody in your artwork.
Yes, there's an artwork. It's a cipher, a seed cipher of sorts. So you can use the artwork as a key that decrypt. Well, it both encrypts and decrypts a cipher text that is can contain a user assigned seed phrase. So there's an article on how it works in that issue of Stackchain Magazine.
Cool. Yeah, no, I love all these creative ideas about it. I mean, there's so much more to it. And then you mentioned Citadel 21.
Yeah, pull them up real quick. So this is Hoddlenot's project, and I believe he's capped it at 21 issues. And for a number of reasons, kind of, I think, just encapsulating a special time and in place and space where Bitcoin was maybe a little bit more based, and there wasn't ETFs and Bitcoin treasury companies. But there's a lot of really great articles, and a lot of all the covers of every issue of Citadel 21 is done by a different artist. I had the honor of doing cover of volume 20.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you go up to shop there, I think you can see all the different covers that were done. Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a number of publications that have featured Bitcoin art. There's obviously been a bunch of Bitcoin art galleries. A huge shout out to Scarcity, another sponsor of Bitcoin Art Magazine, and the forefront of Bitcoin art, physical Bitcoin art, especially auctions in the Bitcoin art space. And they help curate and hold auctions at a lot of the conferences. So Scarcity's really done a lot for the physical Bitcoin art space. But there was no magazine or publication that solely focused on Bitcoin artwork in and of itself. And so I'm just stoked to have been able to kind of hop in and fill that role. And we'll see what else pops up as time moves on. But as far as I know, and currently it's uncontested, we are the world's first Bitcoin art magazine.
I think so. This one is yours here, right? The phone booth?
It is, and I've got a few prints of that left. If anybody's listening, you can grab a print of that on bitcoinartmagazine.com or on my website at sovereignremnant.com. But awesome. I designed that. That artwork was actually a collaboration. The original art was a Blender animation that was made by a kid named Victor from the Ukraine, of all places. And I found it online, and I actually edited, or I took a still from his animation, and then I Bitcoinized it, Bitcoinified it. And so there's a lot of really cool little Easter eggs in there.
Okay, I got to look at that again then.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Can see the background. Exit fiat. Oh, all the stickers.
Yeah, like if you think like a old phone booth with a bunch of
Yeah.
little
Oh, there I see the Asanoha.
and stuff. Yeah, there's patterns in there. So,
That's
and
awesome.
that whole piece was inspired by Guy Swan's A Matrix Meme video. If you haven't
Ah,
seen that, check out A Matrix Meme. I think it's Bitcoin, or I think it's actually exit fiat, enter Bitcoin, A Matrix Meme. And it's just a little voiceover that Guy Swan did on the scene from The Matrix. It's really
the
awesome.
perfect radio voice.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard when so it must have taken a bit of courage to say, can I do this? Has anyone done this? I'm going to do this. And you bite the bullet and you start going. And is it hard there's a lot of good artists out there, or a particular artist, but some of them might be a little aloof or underground. Are they hard to find? Like, I want this artist. Does anyone know where they are? No one does. Are they secretive?
Yes. I mean, I would say yes, there are. Overall, it's not that bad. I'm usually able to track people down, but I spend a good amount of time online. And like you said, I've done a good amount of like proof of work in this space. So I think when I DM people, they look at it, or they take the time to write me back. So I've actually had a pretty good overall like luck of reaching people. But there are some artists that I'll reach out to them either for Bitcoin trading cards or for now the magazine, and I won't hear back from them for like a couple months, So
Yeah, they're on their own time frame.
What'd you say?
They're on their own time frame. Like, they're immersed in work, and when they emerge again, they're like, "What month is it?" I don't know.
Yeah. And it's the whole Bitcoin art space kind of goes through fluctuations, just like anything in Bitcoin, and it's not like easy to make a living creating Bitcoin art by any means. It's not easy to make a living creating and selling artwork, let alone something as niche as Bitcoin art. So I think some people kind of come and go a little bit, and a lot of us
I can see that.
fiat day jobs and so forth, so it's not necessarily our main focus.
Yeah.
Shout out to some of the artists out there, such as, Madex, and, there's a good handful of Bitcoin artists who are full-time Bitcoin artists, but most of us have had day jobs, myself included. And I'm kind of now embarking onto my a time of my most full time. I'm pretty much working on the magazine.
I can imagine that's a full-time job. What I would hope is that with this edition going out now, the first one, and it builds up steam, gets a lot of traction, starts becoming its own force of nature, that this can be a main deal for you. And hopefully you still have time to do your own, for you as well, your own art. You're not too busy.
Yeah. So I think that I'll always make space and make time for myself to do my own art and kind of weave it in there. But I hope that this does get so big and is just goes so strong that I'm able to basically afford to fly around and go and visit artists and photograph and video and interview them myself, and just be able to go and spend a lot of time getting content and just hearing the stories of the artists and connecting with different artists in the space all over the world. So that's my goal. Yeah, and we'll see. So far, it's going good. Huge thank you to everybody who's placed pre-orders and everybody who's been ordering the magazine. Whether that's a standard copy all the way up to a patrons edition, everybody is making this possible and allowing me to do this and to, begin archiving of sorts this very wonderful and beautiful little corner of the world, I guess, of Bitcoin.
Totally.
So
BitcoinArtMagazine.com. You can get the basic version of it, the Genesis issue, for $33.
Yeah, we're going to be raising that to $42.
Price is going up.
New Year's. So you got 2 days to get your copy at $33, and then it goes up to $42, and it'll remain at that for the rest of this edition. That is due to us choosing to limit it at 1,720 copies. And that is, basically
showcasing the work of Fractal Encrypt, Chief Monkey, Maddox, Brecky Von Bitcoin, Mir One, Bitcoin Apex, Pepinardo, Rare Skrilla, Alex Schaefer, Cypherpunk Now, Adam Cadman, Yonit Vax, Bitko Yanowski, Kanuto Takumi, Bitcoin Trading Cards, Yourself Truly, the Pinnacle publication presenting apex of art in Bitcoin. And to artists out there, you're still early. I'll just say, I think if you're an artist feeling like, well, there's a lot of art out there, I like doing art, but I'm late. Don't you feel like that about so many things? I'm late. I would say you're early.
I would say it's still super early for Bitcoin art. I mean, it's go out on the street and ask anybody what Bitcoin even is. And, most people don't, they don't know. Most people don't. I mean, it's a little concerning sometimes, but I mean, something along the lines of the remnant and the masses and kind of, so I hope
just the basic
more plebs get in before it really does go to full mainstream adoption. So we'll see.
Yeah. The ultimate destination that unavoidable. It's scary to me when I think about a lot of people's general incentives at all is that, who was it? There was a man on the street type video I saw, and however contrived it was, I mean, these appeared to be real people, but he was going around, he had a bar of silver in one hand and one of the giant chocolate bars in the other. And he's basically offering people, you want a bar of silver or a giant chocolate bar? People just choose the chocolate bar because they can eat it now. And it's like, oh boy. Some people will never understand. Some people will never understand art either. So anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think I like you said, who knows how set up some of those videos are, but I feel like there's one where someone, and it was from a while ago, someone's going around saying, would you like $1 Bitcoin or would you like $100? And people are like, I'll take $100 right now.
$100.
Yeah, I'll take $100. So sweet. And Bitcoin, it wasn't at what it was at right now, but it was at significantly more than $100. So
speaking of prospective artists, I have a David Humphrey, 1558. Find me on Noster. I sell art as well. He's got his NPub. He puts his NPub up here. So what I'll do is I'll throw this in the private chat so you'll have it.
All right, sweet.
David Humphrey. And yeah, if there's artists out there, I just say, hey, reach out to Asanoha, reach out to Bitcoin Art Magazine, get yourself a Bitcoin Art Magazine. And if you're an artist, Asanoha wants to hear from you because he's vetting quality, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we don't have currently we don't have like a very specific submission process, but anybody who's creating Bitcoin artwork is welcome to send me a DM and show me what you're working on. And we've got kind of a loose guidelines that we're going off of. But you basically need to be active and either, selling your art, making some sort of fine art, physical fine art, and selling it, active in the space, whether that's on Noster, on Twitter, or in person, so kind of the general stuff you would think one would need to do, or it's got to just be like an absolutely insane piece of artwork. So there's always kind of that wild card. Like, I don't know, if you just show me something mind blowing. I will say we are encouraging artists to create Bitcoin art that doesn't actually contain the Bitcoin logo inside of it. Not because the Bitcoin logo isn't art in and of itself, and not because there's not a ton of phenomenal art made with it. There just is a lot of that. And so sort of encouraging artists to strive to kind of, I don't know, reach deep down inside yourself and look at Bitcoin and think of like, what's a cool, new, unique way to help, attempt to conceptualize Bitcoin that's going outside of just using the logo itself,
What's the deeper message here? Give us the essence. It's like, you make some good art. and then you throw in some Bitcoin logos in there. Well, some of that is very cool. I've liked my share of that, but there's a lot deeper based depths to all of this, as we know. So
yeah, I think with any art or with any field, really, it's like, pushing the boundaries and kind of pioneering the edge of like what hasn't been done yet. So there's some of my favorite art pieces are just a stylized version of the Bitcoin logo. Shout out to Mr. Hansel, who it was just this last year at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. He had one of the coolest, like, just Bitcoin logo pieces I had ever seen. It was like a calligraphic Bitcoin B, and it was made out of hole punched fiat notes. So he had like punched like thousands of fiat of like holes out of like fiat notes, and then he'd taken the like little circular hole punched pieces of fiat, and he'd made this like super I just liked the way it looked. Bitcoin being he like, it was like all coated in some kind of resin like material, like but it had like this cool texture, like it had the texture of the like hole punched little discs framed beautifully, and it was the imagery was a calligraphic Bitcoin B. But there's been a lot of variations of that have been done in different and cool and wonderful and beautiful ways. So I just tell people, if you want to be in the magazine, I won't. It's not, we have lots of art in there that is just a Bitcoin B. I mean, Brecky carved like I want to say it's out of a calcite. I should know what the mineral was, but some kind of like stone, like crystalline orange stone. I mean, the thing looks like you could take a bite out of it, but it's like this Bitcoin B that he carved.
Can be.
It's phenomenal, and we feature that in the Genesis edition. So, but I do encourage artists to think of new and novel ways to conceptualize Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, I'm a sucker for all that kind of good, the obvious art, just because I'm not an eccentric connoisseur, but I like a wide variety. I've loved all the stuff you've made, like describing the kind of stuff you've made, like the Satoshi statue. Yeah, they're making like so many of those now. There's one at Wall Street. There's one in Lugano and elsewhere. I've seen them again and again now, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I still have an appreciation for that. It's cool.
Yeah. And there's stuff that I think they're doing a series of those. Satoshi Gallery is going to do a series. I don't know. I'm guessing they're doing 21 of them all around the world.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And there's staple stuff like the Bitcoin logo or the Guy Fawkes mask that, it is a crowd pleaser and a lot of people love it. And there are also people that are going to whine and be like, really, another Guy Fawkes mask? And that's okay, and so you should just make the kind of art that you feel inspired to make. I've used the Guy Fawkes mask a lot.
Sure.
Probably the most recognized piece of art is my own hand-drawn rendition of the Guy Fawkes mask, which is funny because Warner Bros. Owns the IP to the Guy Fawkes mask.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a fucking hilarious world that we live in, and yeah, I've been trying more recently to try and make artworks that are, like my seed cipher is if you scroll up a little bit or maybe down a little bit.
The seed cipher. Let me see here. Whoop, hold on.
It's I think it's down. Yeah,
that
so
one?
like here. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily know that that's Bitcoin art by looking at it, but but it's there. You can use it to encrypt or decrypt Bitcoin. So I'm what are like my personal challenge for myself is how do I conceptualize Bitcoin in more and more of a succinct or in more and more unique ways that haven't been done before.
Is that the key down below it down there?
Yeah, so those are little custom made seed plates made by Stamp Seed. Shout out to Stamp Seed. And you can stamp your own seed phrase into those two plates on the right. They each will take 12 words. So it's a truncated seed phrase. And the plate on the far left is just a backup plate of the painting itself. But the painting or that seed plate on the left tells you the sequence of the seed letters
Yeah.
And on those 2 seed plates on the right, they're all scrambled up. So each seed letter of a truncated seed phrase, so that's just the first 4 letters of each word, you would roll your own seed or generate your own seed, and then you would stamp them into that plate with the corresponding symbol as depicted by the order of the symbols on the seed plate on the left or the painting itself. So the far is the far upper left symbol is the first letter of your first seed word, moving left to right. And so if somebody found that seed plate that has your actual seed letter stamped into it next to their corresponding like symbol or glyph, it would be scrambled up, so someone wouldn't be able to get your seed phrase. It's not, human readable or in plain text there. You need the order of the symbols that's depicted on the painting or the seed plate on the left to tell you the correct order of your seed letters.
Very creative. That's very cool. And slight tangent on the simplest Bitcoin book ever written. Keysa, you helped with this book, correct? Keysa, is she also an artist?
Keysa is an artist, but she's currently she's the senior editor of Bitcoin Art Magazine, and she is the author of the simplest Bitcoin book ever written. She's a good old friend of mine, and I didn't help with this book. I just have helped with the just marketing and sales.
Oh, okay.
And I always sell it if I'm ever at a conference and I have a booth with my artwork, I always sell copies of this book. So
I saw it on the bitcoinartmagazine.com in their education section. If you click on education up here, it takes you to this book. And I thought I'd heard that you'd mentioned having helped with it, but written by Keysa. So Keysa's helping you.
Keysa's helped me with the magazine.
Yeah, so she's busy herself.
She is, and that book is, in my opinion, the best primer to give somebody who wants to learn about Bitcoin or friend or family member. If they can read that book, it only takes a couple of hours to read the whole book, front to back. It's very, very simply laid out, and it gives you all of the basics on what is Bitcoin, why we need it, how it works, where to get some. And there's an excellent resource section in the back of the book. If someone is interested after reading about the basics, they can go on and read the Bitcoin Standard or any other of the numerous phenomenal, more in-depth works relating to more about Bitcoin. But, trying to hand somebody, the Bitcoin Standard right out the gate, or sending them the 12-hour Sailor series on the What is Money podcast.
Yeah, not everybody's crazy like I am, but oh well.
Yeah, their eyes glaze over at that. So, what's the most succinct, simple primer explainer you can give somebody? What's the 5-minute elevator orange pilling pitch? So.
Yeah, and so like what art does for people as well is that how people connect is it boils down to human relationships, or the relationship between an artist and his audience, or his the message and the audience, and ultimately it's about people. And that's what I love about the Bitcoin art stuff, is that yes, there's Bitcoin, and most people that get into Bitcoin, it doesn't always translate because whoever was early, you're into the technical stuff, or you're into economics or history or money or so many things. And but how do you connect with people? Some people I saw at conferences, there might be a friend or a spouse of someone who tagged along to a Bitcoin event with their partner, and the art was what registered with them. And so the artwork creates relationships. It speaks to the human spirit behind it all. It's like, okay, so you're not good at math, so you're not good at money, so you don't want to know all this stuff. We get it, but you like art, don't you? So it bridges the gap.
Absolutely. I think that there's something important in any movement, any cultural movement, which, some people like Shinobi will say that there's no such thing as Bitcoin culture. And in many ways that's true. And in many ways, Bitcoin is entirely culture. So it kind of depends on what perspective you're looking at it from, but the cultural choices and the cultural ideologies of the users of the network literally determine what version of the software and what version of the code is run. And at the end of the day, humans are the Bitcoin network. It's enabled by computers and technology, but if humans don't run the code or mine the Bitcoins or send transactions to each other, then Bitcoin, would, maybe it wouldn't cease to exist, but it wouldn't be a functional network. And humans are cultural creatures. And so I think art is a very important part of any subject matter, really, that has any value or meaning to society. And like you said, absolutely, there's a lot of people, like myself included. I am a surfer. I'm a pot farming hippie kid. I don't know. I'm not a finance. I don't come from a big finance family, or I'm not a day trader. I didn't get into trading ever. I'm not a computer programmer, but I found the way that I can interact with and contribute to Bitcoin and be part of Bitcoin. And I think that, there's something important about conceptualizing something that's digital and bringing it into this physical reality that we all live in. And Bitcoin's not tangible. There's parts of Bitcoin that are tangible. There's hardware wallets, there's seed storage plates, there's Bitcoin mining facilities, of course, and Bitcoin miners. And that's probably the most technologically or scientifically tangible part of Bitcoin. But conveying what is, and there's books written about Bitcoin, so you could say that's a tangible part of Bitcoin. But conveying what Bitcoin is and conveying the emotions that are, related to Bitcoin, like the feeling of finding something that has the potential to bring you and your family true freedom, true financial freedom, geographic freedom, I think is important and powerful. And art is the way I think that is most successfully done. So, and
Absolutely.
absolutely too. There's a lot of obsession within Bitcoin, which many of us have. Probably most of us listening to this podcast right now, and hours of podcasts or long novels about Bitcoin are fascinating to us. And we spend a lot of time talking about Bitcoin and reading about Bitcoin and listening about Bitcoin and watching stuff about Bitcoin. And we fucking love Bitcoin. But there are a lot of other people out there who, not all of that's not very interesting to them. And maybe they are extremely interested, or they are inspired, or they, find, an art gallery at a conference was the most interesting part of the whole event for them. And people I said, few moments ago, like myself, who it's like a place where maybe we can connect, and it's kind of a cool place because art's something that everybody can connect on. You can like all stand around and look at a painting and be like, wow, that looks really cool, like, sick. And it's simple in a lot of ways, but I think there's importance and beauty, and there's power in that simplicity of a single imaging, a single image conveying 1,000 words, or so they say.
Yeah, and there's a gestalt to all of that. When you go to a conference, it's not just the individual parts. In totality, it's more than just the sum of its parts. And at the end of the day, it's the network connections, the relationships, all the people. How does Bitcoin make you feel? Does it make you feel anything? Like, we start to get down the rabbit hole, orange pill trail, and you get all excited. And some people are into like the stuff. But then it's so much more than that. It's like, how do you harness that? Art gives it that outlet. And at the end of the day, we're all human. And I hope we always will be. That in the future, going deep on this, we're humans. I hope we retain our humanity. And that someday it's not going to be, maybe future generations won't know necessarily that it's called Bitcoin. It simply is life. Life is better. And it'd be like being obsessed about dollars. I mean, now, not to make the comparison there, but like Bitcoin will simply be kind of a fabric of things that makes things work and made things better. But it will actually be about life itself. Life will be better, is the point, I would hope. So
Absolutely. And that's something that I think is in alignment with Bitcoin. There's no such thing as Bitcoin culture, which is very true as well, because one day it will hopefully just be the money that everybody uses. And Bitcoin art will be odd artifacts that some people, in niche corners still probably covet because they were there in the beginning. But who knows, how much, are we going to have sculptures or statues of Bitcoin bees out in front of buildings, or will it have actually just created a slower time preference way of life, a better way of life here on Earth, and the artwork that you see is just simply more beautiful because Bitcoin has enabled it to be so?
right.
There's no direct correlation, and kids aren't, it's just the money that they grow up using, like you're saying. And so I think that, at that point in time, that's okay. And I'm fine with I don't care. I don't care if there's a Bitcoin culture once we reach hyper Bitcoinization. But on our way to getting there, I think Bitcoin culture is extremely important in attracting the right kind of people to make the choices to run the right kind of code and software. Otherwise, we'll just turn into fucking Bithereum in the blink of an eye, right? If you have a bunch of shitcoiners, if the culture is shitcoining, then you end up with Ethereum. And clearly, there's a lot of people out there that are not that do not cleave the characteristics and the character necessary to create a good form of money, as we've seen with the fiat system that we all live in. So I would like this new form of money to be created and carved by those of us that have a aptitude and an understanding of what makes a good form of money. And I think culture is a very important part of that. And ideology is an important part of that. And if you don't have faith in certain things and you don't have the ideological perspective of things being a certain way that is good and for the greater good, then you end up with shitcoin culture. And you can see the example of that with Ethereum or Solana or any of these other numerous shitcoins, So.
Right. The pump and dubs, and our fiat monkey brain gravitates to number go up. And I think in the future, if all goes well, the obsession with any kind of like what number goes up where would just be kind of weird and maybe really kind of greedy, and because life itself is good enough, and your money is a good asset just to think long term about, time preference wise. So I really appreciate your time with me. We're approaching an hour and a half, and I want to make sure people know to go to Bitcoin Art Magazine. Let me bring that up again. Get yourself a Genesis edition. You can get yourself a gold leaf issue. This is the standard one, and if we go back, there are some of them have sold out, folks. The patrons edition has sold out, limited to 21, sold out. You can get yourself a hard cover, the gold foil cover, and the Genesis issue limited edition. Go to bitcoinartmagazine.com. Get yourself a Bitcoin Art Magazine. It's a gallery in your hands. You're going to love it when you feel it. Before we go, or is there anything else that I didn't bring up that you want to make sure we touch upon?
No, man, I could go on. We could go on for hours. So maybe we'll have to do another one in the future.
Sure.
I just want to say thank you for having me up here today. I really want to say, deeply thank you to MicroSeed for sponsoring the world's first Bitcoin Art Magazine.
Yes, thank you.
Without you. To anybody listening, go check out MicroSeed. And I wanted to say a couple words about MicroSeed. At first, when I saw it, I think I met you guys at it may have been in Vegas.
Yeah.
Here, I believe. And at first I was kind of like, oh, like that's cool. It's a seed stamped on a titanium washer, and I didn't really put two and two together. But they've got the little block jigs that you can 3D print yourself. The files are out there, and you can go buy 5 cent or 25 cent stainless steel washers from your local hardware store and make an unlimited amount of your own seed storage solutions. And that's super awesome, except you're dealing with moving parts because you can only fit about 1 word per washer. And now you've got to put all these little washers on a nut and a bolt. You know, not throwing any shade on an amazing DIY open source solution like that, but
absolutely not.
You're dealing with a lot of moving parts there and a larger of an item. And when I realized that your guys' jig, it stamps all 24 words on a single washer, it was just like, I was like, this is a mind-blowingly cool breakthrough in seed storage solutions. Like, you took something that had already been done really well, and then you like actually made it better. And a lot of the seed storage solutions I see are just copies of each other with different variations.
Yeah.
People, you know, I'll find a new seed storage stamping situation of whatever it may be. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But like, that's basically just the same as that other thing. Like, it's not actually ingenuitive. And what you guys have created is like, I've never seen anything else like it. And the amount of, I mean, it's just so cool. The amount of, you know, possibilities that it gives you for methods of storage. And I love that you sell the jig, but then I can still go and make an unlimited amount of my own seed plates. I can just go and buy washers at my local hardware store. I can use your jig and I can stamp them all day. And, you know, some people, like I've seen, have been like, oh, well, it's really small and hard to read. And it's like, okay, well, then back up a larger one. You should have more than one backup. You should have 2 or 3 backups. Back up one on a big old giant plate. And then you can back up one on this, and you can, I mean, the number of ways that you can hide a single washer is so much more numerous. And you aren't dealing with a bunch of moving parts. So I don't recommend any multiple part seed storage. I only recommend people do a single square plate or a single washer if you want something there. So
I tell people whatever works for you, just get it off paper. You know, you might have a piece of paper where you wrote it down once, and then you're like, okay, well, I'll keep that safe. But from what all, you know, if it's on paper or, you know, you think of fire, flood, and all the things. I'll play a reel from a MicroSeed here as we depart, and I'll play the long. It's kind of funny. I made it, but a little ad. So basically, take self custody. I don't care what you use. Do it DIY if you want, but as long as if you get it on steel. Yes, you're more immune from everything like the fire, the flood, the anything that might, and also if you want the obscurity, you know, something small. So if you wanted to travel with it, for example, like you could stamp on a nylon washer, so you can get through metal detectors. It'll work. You can get if I have it here, I've got a marker, but basically it'll stamp on a nylon washer. You get your marker out, you mark on it, and you can see it at that point. Meanwhile, you can get through, say, a border and not worry about metal. This would be like a nothing burger, a grommet in your luggage if you wanted, a button on your shirt, whatever. All kinds of options. So
when you guys showed me the nylon washer, I just and I was gonna say that, so I'm happy you brought it up. I mean, there's not a whole lot of solutions out there that give you a good way for cross-border crossing, other than taking it off a metal and putting it on a piece of, you know, waterproof paper or something. I guess you could order some waterproof paper, but the smallness of it being a feature, not a bug, for traveling or for cross-border situations. Like once you guys gave me the full rundown, I was like, I'm sold. I'm like, this is absolutely genius. This is totally brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love what you guys are doing there. And
so yeah, with the jig, and you can go down. So basically you can get the jig and make them nice and clean and align the way you want. But you can go down to the hardware store and just buy as many little washers as you want. And so you can make as many as you want. You don't have to buy a special plate or a special set of proprietary washers. You don't have to have a stack of washers. You don't have to have a plate. Oh, there goes my camera. It's an automatic camera that if I make a motion, it wants to zoom in or something. I don't know why it does that. Go away. There. Okay.
MicroSeed's like a fishing pole. It's like, I'll sell you once and you can catch an unlimited amount of fish. So
we're not selling fish, we're selling the pole. So well, thanks for that shout out. I'm going to play a fun little video here, and then we'll wrap it up. But man, again, Asanoha, thanks for joining me. Super excited about the Bitcoin Art Magazine.
Yes, I appreciate you guys and looking forward to the future.
Cool. All right. We'll catch you next time, folks. As a Bitcoiner, you know that taking self-custody is critically important. But if you've ever had a seed phrase, you've probably had it written down on something kind of like this. So get off paper and get yourself a MicroSeed at microseed.io. MicroSeed is the best way to take self-custody. Secure the most important property in the world that you own on titanium. You can also go to microseed.io to get any extra washers you need, including stainless steel, nylon, or even titanium washers. So check this out. You put your washer in here, you set the table, you grab your punches, and you tap, click, tap, click, tap. Stamp whatever you want, however you want it. It's tiny but clean and aligned. MicroSeed comes with stainless steel washers, a titanium washer, and even a nylon washer. Think of metal detectors or having to travel through security. Get there today and get yourself squared away.